Hello everyone, welcome to my channel. Please subscribe and keep watching more details. Why Voight doesn't follow his best principle in Chicago PD. Tell me the truth so I can lie for you. Chicago PD's Hank Voight has many philosophies he imposes on his detectives and officers, but the surgeon's most important rule, which season 12 references in episode 13, is one he doesn't follow himself. The NBC police procedural series revolves around Voight's team, the intelligence unit, at the 21st District in the Chicago Police Department. Since Chicago PD's first season, Voight hasn't exactly followed the law. He has gotten better over the years. However, it's clear to everyone in intelligence that under Voight's authority, they can occasionally bend and break the rules while on the job. Voight's principles have often gotten him and the intelligence unit into trouble in the show. Nevertheless, they have managed to stay together, for the most part, for 12 seasons, also thanks to Voight's leadership skills. Still, Voight has proven to be a bit of a hypocrite. For example, Voight mentions his best principle in Chicago PD Season 12, Episode 13, but it's a sentiment that he doesn't abide by. In Chicago PD Season 12, Episode 13, Street Jesus, Kevin Atwater is working on a fundraiser for a community center project, where he later finds the dead body of a young man. As a result, the case is personal for him. Atwater even lies to Voight throughout the hour to protect one of his friends from being implicated in the murder. But when Voight learns the truth, he has a talk with Atwater and references one of his lines from the show's pilot. Jason Baig's Chicago PD Season 12 character tells Atwater. Voight is disappointed in Atwater for lying to him. However, given their history and Voight's awareness of Atwater's character, this reminder is enough for the two to solve the issue in Chicago PD Season 12, Episode 13. Voight insists that his officers leave the tough decisions to him. He wants to unburden their problems and take them on himself, which is why the Chicago PD episode makes a call back to Voight's famous quote pilot. While it's exciting to hear Voight repeat one of his most important Chicago PD quotes in Season 12, it's also a harsh reminder that his philosophy about his team lying is one that he doesn't adhere to, but expects everyone else to. Jay Halstead even calls Voight out for his hypocrisy in Season 9. The former intelligence member instructs his boss to always tell him the truth so that he can protect Voight from himself. He throws Voight's rule right back at him, and subsequently Halstead leaves Chicago PD. However, there is a good reason, at least in Voight's head, why he doesn't follow his own leading principle. He has grown accustomed to and prefers working on his own. Voight is the leader of the intelligence unit, so it makes sense why he feels this way. He strongly believes it's his duty to protect his officers and detectives and that they shouldn't feel the need to do the same for him. Consequently, Voight relentlessly refuses to abide by his tell me the truth so I can lie for you ideology in the NBC police procedural TV show Chicago PD. Even though Voight being closed off makes sense in his own world, the only thing it's doing is hurting himself and the people around him in the one Chicago universe. If Voight expects the other characters to be vulnerable with him and can't do the same for them, they can never be a strong team. Mutual respect is quite important in these situations. One of the ways to gain and solidify that respect is for Voight to be open with the rest of the intelligence unit. Once he can do so, the Chicago PD squad can solidify their connection as a team, making it unbreakable. In the world of Chicago PD, Sergeant Hank Voight is the epitome of tough, gritty law enforcement. His no-nonsense approach, his fierce loyalty to his team, and his ability to operate in the morally gray areas of the law make him one of the most compelling characters in the franchise. But Voight's mantra, tell me the truth so I can lie for you, has been the cornerstone of his approach to policing. It's a principle that allows him to maintain control in situations where the rules don't fit. Yet there are moments in the series when Voight, despite this guiding principle, doesn't follow his own rule. The complexity of his character, torn between his personal code and the chaotic nature of law enforcement, raises the question, why doesn't Voight always adhere to the very principle that's defined his approach to his job? The burden of loyalty. Voight's deep-rooted sense of loyalty is one of the driving forces behind his behavior. He operates under the belief that the ends justify the means, particularly when it comes to his team. For years, the intelligence unit has been his family, and he has often gone to extreme lengths to protect them from the consequences of their actions. While his principle of "tell me the truth so I can lie for you" works when his people are in trouble, it becomes complicated when the loyalty to his team conflicts with the greater moral and ethical questions of his actions. Take, for instance, his relationship with Detective J. Halstead. When Halstead is involved in a case that could jeopardize his career, Voight's instinct is to protect him, to lie for him, even if it means bending or breaking the law. This loyalty is tested when the stakes are higher than ever, and Voight finds himself questioning whether his blind loyalty to his team might be costing them their integrity. In this way, Voight doesn't always follow his principle because at times, his attachment to those he cares about clouds his judgment. His protective nature might push him to hide the truth, even when it's in the best interest of everyone involved to face it. The evolution of Voight's morality. Voight's personal evolution throughout Chicago PD plays a significant role in why he occasionally strays from his own principles. At the start of the series, Voight is a morally ambiguous character who operates more in the realm of right and wrong, using his methods to get results at any cost. As the series progresses, however, Voight begins to confront his own demons, and his once steadfast belief in his approach to policing starts to waver. He begins to question his actions, especially when the consequences of his decisions weigh heavier on him, and when the fallout impacts innocent lives. For instance, his dealings with informants like Mickey and Benny often test his values. Initially, Voight would lie, cheat, or manipulate to protect those who are useful to him or his team, but later, he starts questioning whether these actions are worth the harm they cause to the people involved. As Voight becomes more self-aware, he realizes that his principle, while effective, often leads to consequences that don't always serve the greater good. In these moments of self-reflection, Voight's principles seem less like a tool for achieving his goals and more like a crutch that he's used to hide from the more complex ethical dilemmas he faces. The dangers of over-reliance on his own code. Voight's reliance on his guiding principle is both a strength and a weakness. It has protected him and his team from countless dangerous situations. But when he leans too heavily on this principle, he becomes increasingly disconnected from the reality of his actions. The line between right and wrong becomes blurred, and it's not always clear whether Voight is making decisions to protect his team or to protect himself from the consequences of his actions. One of the clearest examples of this is his strained relationship with Kim Burgess. Voight's actions and decisions often push Burgess to question her own commitment to the job and her moral compass. She doesn't always agree with his methods and at times actively resists them. In a pivotal moment in the show, Burgess finds herself at odds with Voight when she realizes the true cost of his willingness to lie for the people he cares about. Voight, despite his mantra, is forced to confront the reality that the lies he tells are doing more harm than good, particularly when it comes to the trust he's built with his team. Voight's struggle with accountability. At the core of Voight's internal conflict is his inability to hold himself accountable. He's been given immense power within the department, and his ability to manipulate situations, lie, and control the narrative often makes him feel untouchable. But over time, the consequences of his actions catch up with him. The web of lies he's woven becomes increasingly difficult to untangle, and Voight begins to realize that the principle he's relied on for so long is not without its own flaws. His relationship with Detective Antonio Dawson is a clear example of this struggle. Antonio, who once had immense trust in Voight, begins to see the darker side of his superior. As Voight's tactics become more questionable, Antonio grapples with the idea that the truth is not something Voight can always protect. Voight's reluctance to follow his own principle, especially when it comes to accepting the consequences of his actions, begins to create a rift between him and the people who once believed in him.